Hello everyone and welcome to the Sports Watch 2014 Egg Bowl Preview. I'm Browning Stubbs and we're joined by Houston Brock of the Underscore Sports. What's up, Houston?
I'm excited to be here. Great Egg Bowl coming up this weekend. I'm really pumped.
That's right. The Egg Bowl this year features 10-1 Mississippi State versus 8-3 Ole Miss. And Houston, when we talk about these two teams, this has got to be one of the best matchups ever between Ole Miss and Mississippi State because both teams are ranked.
It really is, and I can't remember a time where both teams were ranked going into this weekend, so I'm really excited. We're going to see quality football. That's really what matters. Both teams have a lot to play for. They both have a big bowl game at stake, so I really think it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight.
Yeah, I could not agree more, and it's going to be crazy in Oxford. Probably about 100,000 people will be here over the weekend, and it's going to be just an awesome time in the Grove. And local businesses and the Ole Miss campus are preparing for what should be a historic Egg Bowl, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into hosting over 100,000 people. Bailey Brasseth has that story.
University Sporting Goods employee Brooks Krause and his co-workers have been preparing for the Egg Bowl for weeks.
Have a good day. And we'll make sure, we'll start Thursday. We'll make sure that we have everything in the store stocked. We make sure that we have everything prepared to restock it because it gets there's so many people come in here.
Brooks is an Oxford native, and he believes that this year will not be typical.
I think it's going to be a completely different year for the Egg Bowl. I mean, it always brings a lot of people, always a lot of rivalries. People will come in here. The mayor will sit down in that chair, see Mississippi State shirt and be like, "Nah, I'll get out of my store," just playing with them.
Across the street at Nelson's, Ann Smith says they'd like to welcome the opposing team's fans.
Very excited about the next home game, and of course this is the largest, and we love it because Thursdays and Fridays are very busy. It's exciting. We even put out colors for the opposing team, and even though it's Mississippi State, we still are thrilled to share the hometown.
Next Saturday, red, blue, maroon, and white will fill the streets of Oxford. Local businesses will be booming, and this place will be filled with excitement. Reporting for NewsWatch, I'm Bailey Brasseth.
Well, Houston, there's no question that the excitement level in Oxford is at an all-time high for this football game this weekend. I mean, just talk about how crazy this is going to be.
It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. We saw College Game Day come in earlier this season, and that was great. That was something we had never seen as Ole Miss fans, and I really think there's going to be the same kind of buzz going into this weekend. Obviously, it would have helped with the win against Arkansas. Nothing you can do about it now. You just got to go forward. And with Ole Miss fans, it's really about taking advantage of the opportunity. We can still finish with an all-time great season.
Yeah, well, Houston, I can't agree more. And with State and Ole Miss, they were both on the Sports Illustrated cover. That
was huge.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And maybe it'll be a great game this weekend where they might be on another magazine cover. But for more on how the Ole Miss community is rallying around the Rebels, even after their 30-point loss to Arkansas, here is Madison Amon.
Every year, rivals Ole Miss and Mississippi State play in the Egg Bowl. With the game rapidly approaching, I spoke with several students and faculty to see how they're preparing for the big game.
This is my first Egg Bowl, so I'm pretty excited. I think we have a good chance, and I'll be there at 2:30.
I'm going to come back early, probably make food the night before, then show up early and hang out.
I'm resting up this weekend because if game day comes again, then it'll be a busy day on campus. There's so much excitement around the Egg Bowl, and there's always excitement around the Egg Bowl. We're the flagship university, and we're playing a school that desperately wants to emulate the flagship university, so it's always a big game. But this year, with the ranking of the two teams, it's probably going to be the biggest Egg Bowl game that we've ever played. So personally, I'm just like everybody else. I'm just getting excited about the game, getting ready for the game, resting up for the game, because it's going to be a very big weekend here on the Ole Miss campus.
I also had a chance to speak with Danny about what the university is doing PR-wise to prepare for the big game.
There's a tradition that started last year that's going to be continuing this year is the Egg Bowl Run, where the game ball is carried from Starkville to Calhoun City, and there's a handoff from the Mississippi State ROTC department to the Ole Miss ROTC department, and then they run it from Calhoun City here to Oxford, run around the square, and then bring it and deliver it to Coach Freeze on Monday evening. So we're putting out information to let people know about that route, let people know how they can how they can help support the ROTC cadets as they bring the game ball to campus.
The Egg Bowl will be here at Ole Miss on November 29th. If you can't make it to the Bot, you can also catch the game on CBS. For Sports Watch, this has been Madison Amon.
Now, Houston, the excitement level is at an all-time high in Oxford, but let's not forget the Bulldogs in Starkville. It is, you know, they got a better record, so they're having a historic season, and I don't think anyone expected Ole Miss and State to be this good this season. But we got the chance to go to Starkville, and those fans, they were just so humble and just so excited about their team.
A genuine excitement there. This is the best Mississippi State team that they might ever see, and really, no one expected this coming into it. They knew that they would be pretty good, but Dak Prescott has taken that town by storm, and a lot of what you'll see is kind of how much the fans really appreciate all that he's done for the team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Houston. I mean, he's a Heisman contender. I don't think he's number one in the Heisman rankings, but if he has a good game and then if State gets lucky and makes the SEC championship, with luck by Alabama losing, he could.
They've got a lot more to play for than we do, just being honest, and the ceiling is a lot higher for them as far as goals than they can attain this season.
Well, while we were in Starkville, the fans were very excited, and here is what some of them had to say about their Bulldogs.
We're all really excited, since we're having such a great season. We're getting so big, and we get to go and experience all these various games, and we're winning. So we're hoping we can keep that up and go to one of the big bowl games, go to the SEC championship, and all that.
You know, you never can tell with the Egg Bowl. You know, it's home field advantage one year, home field advantage the next. It's switch swap. Mississippi State's giving them a good run for their money the past 4 years. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of excitement, a lot more than I've ever seen or that's really ever been around, right? Because Mississippi State's never been in this position where if they win, there's a good shot that they could go to the college football playoffs.
Oh, it's blowing up around here. Everyone is excited. I mean, they think we're expecting a really good game. I mean, we're staying positive. We're thinking we're going to win, but you know, I think it's still going to be a good game. Both teams are ranked, and it's going to be close.
There's been a lot of argument about who's going to win. Personally, I'm from Oxford, so I'm around Ole Miss all the time, but I want Mississippi State to win.
And also, if they win and then Alabama loses, an SEC championship's right there. So there's a lot of excitement like that, but there's also a lot of the Chicken Little factor of, gosh, the sky's going to be falling, Ole Miss is going to knock us off, and then we're just going to go to some random bowl game, and all that could be lost like that.
Well, guys, we're hoping that the 2014 Egg Bowl will be one that no one will ever forget. But, Houston, we got to go back to 1983 for the immaculate deflection.
That was the craziest chapter in the saga of Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. The Egg Bowl really kind of had its craziest moment on that day, and it's one that a lot of Ole Miss fans and Mississippi State fans have never forgotten.
Yeah, Houston, I don't think anyone will ever forget the 1983 Egg Bowl, and this year's Egg Bowl could be just as good as that one. But a journalism professor at Ole Miss named Brad Schultz actually filmed a documentary on that 1983 Egg Bowl, and for more on that, here is Kristen Hogans.
Because the Egg Bowl is right around the corner, why not take the time to reflect on a legendary game that will be remembered forever?
There it is. It is placed down. There's the kick. It curves. It curves. It is no good.
And that ball was held up by the wind, blew it completely to the left of the kicker in the goal post. He was plenty high and plenty long. This is unbelievable.
The Immaculate Deflection game was commemorated for its 30th year anniversary last year by a professor here at the Meek School of Journalism.
Brad Schultz worked on the documentary for about 3 months, making it just right to be aired the day of the Egg Bowl game.
It was really an idea of Eric Williamson, a colleague of mine who used to work in the school, and he knew it was the 30th anniversary of that crazy Egg Bowl game in 1983, and he said, we should do something on that. So we made some contacts and talked to some people, and all these pieces that we needed and kind of pulling them together. And like I said, about the only thing that didn't work out was no one from Mississippi State would talk to us. It was fascinating because I guess they lost, and they lost in such bizarre fashion. We tried and we pleaded and we asked nicely, and they just said no. You know, the game, Ole Miss fell way behind, and Ole Miss came into the game needing a win to go to a bowl game. So it was a big game for them. State had a losing record, and so that wasn't on the table for them. But Ole Miss fell behind. Didn't look like they were going to win. They started coming back. They pull ahead, and then last few minutes of the game, Mississippi State gets the ball, and they start going down the field. But they're going into this 30-mile-an-hour, 40-mile-an-hour wind. It was almost like a tornado. And so they get down real close, and they bring their field goal kicker in with no time left hardly, and he kicks a short field goal, and it's going through the uprights, and a gust of wind blows it back on field. You can actually see the ball get halfway there and stop, like an invisible hand stopped it, and then just kind of smack it down, and that's how Ole Miss won the game, and that's why they call it the immaculate deflection.
With NewsWatch, I'm Kristen Hogans.
Well, Houston, now let's talk about the current Ole Miss Rebels and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And we'll start with Ole Miss, and let's kind of recap their season so far. They started out right, the first 3 quarters against that Boise State Broncos team was a little shaky, but ever since that 4th quarter, they really just came on strong. And through their first 7 games, they went 7-0. They had big wins at home against Alabama, and that one will be remembered forever.
That was definitely the marquee win of the last, let's go ahead and say 5 years or so, maybe even longer than that. But like you said, Boise State was a great way to start it. That team was a quality team, and it was on the road, kind of a bowl atmosphere it felt like, and we really took advantage of that. Alabama, a great win as well. And winning in dramatic fashion kind of uplifted this fan base and showed us that we can win against top competition. And it was obviously, like I said, our marquee win of the year.
And Alabama, that was their only loss of the season. And now let's talk about one other game that was very big this season. That was against Texas A&M, 100,000 people on the road, Houston. And they really just went into College Station and just took down the Aggies from the start.
Well, Cody Pruitt had a huge, huge play in that game. Controlling the skies, taking it back for 6. That really kind of set the tone, I think. But that was the Texas State record for an attended college football game. So we went in there and we really destroyed them, which was great. It was great for our confidence. And at that time, being undefeated, what else would you want than to see us go in there and beat what is a Texas A&M team that's going to a bowl game this year?
And Houston, after that 7-0 start, the Rebels, they went into Death Valley, only scored 7 points and fell 10-7 in that one.
A real buzzkill kind of game for the Rebs. You really didn't want to see that performance. I mean, we just couldn't get on the board. What we thought was an offensive team all year struggled to put points on the board for an LSU team. We had seen Mississippi State go in there and put up a ton of points on that LSU team. Well, we couldn't exactly do the same, and it was just an ugly performance. And really, since that game, we've kind of seen a fall off.
Yeah, and speaking of that fallout, now we need to talk about what happened against Auburn, and just a heartbreaking loss to the Auburn Tigers. You had that play with Laquan Treble at the end. Unfortunately, lost him to the season and the game. They had a great fight that game, but just really since then, it's been downhill for Ole Miss.
You can't script a worse ending to a football game, and everyone knows that. You never want to see a player get hurt in a game. You never want to see a player get hurt in the game in the fashion that it was, where you're inches away from winning a huge game. I mean, that was a top 5 matchup in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. So, unfortunately, it was a loss, but that's something that going forward our team will be able to use as a focus for next season.
And Houston, there's really not much to say after the Arkansas loss, but Ole Miss now, they're playing spoiler in the matchup against Mississippi State. But now let's talk about the Bulldogs, and this Mississippi State team they had a historical season.
Well, a lot of people weren't sure how good they were going to be. And then the way they kind of went into Death Valley and just whooped up on LSU was really, really impressive. Dak Prescott had a run in that game where he really kind of elevated into Heisman candidacy. I mean, he was bouncing off tacklers, stiff-arming people, so that was great. They had some early hiccups against UAB and other teams where people weren't sure how good they were going to be. And then moving forward, just playing Auburn the way they did. I mean, going up 21-0, you knew this Mississippi State team was for real.
Oh, yeah. And the Bulldogs, they just really they went 9-0 to start the season. Against Alabama, Dak Prescott had 3 interceptions, but he was really competitive in that football game. They lost 25-20. But even with that loss, they're still alive.
They're still alive. And do they need help? Sure. But they control their own destiny in the sense of if they just win one more game, being the Egg Bowl this weekend, they have as good a shot as any to go to the college football playoff, the first one. And if Alabama loses, then they win the West. They go to the SEC championship. Then, hey, who knows what can happen from there.
And Houston, speaking of one man we just talked about, Dak Prescott, he's got a big rival, and that is Bo Wallace here at Ole Miss. And, I mean, we've got to talk about these two quarterbacks because there's been a lot of chat around the state, who's better, Bo or Dak. But, I mean, when you look at the numbers, Houston, you got Dak Prescott. He's thrown 23 touchdowns. You know, you don't want to see the 10 interceptions, 2,700 yards approximately. But what separates Dak from Bo Wallace is his game on the ground. His game on the ground is his calling card. He is a bruiser. He's not the runner like Cam Newton was with speed, or you guys like Marcus Mariota. He is going to run through you. He's a big, physical runner, heavy, all muscle. And that really has been the edge for him. Almost 900 yards on the ground. He's approaching 1,000 yards. So I think before the season's over, he'll be in the 2,000 passing, 1,000 rushing yard club, which in the SEC, guys like Cam Newton, Tebow, Johnny Manziel have all done that. And I think Dak is the next one to do it. On the other hand, let's talk about Bo Wallace, Houston. And Bo Wallace, he's kind of trading punches with Dak. I mean, he's on the season 22 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions, almost 2,800 passing yards, and he just broke Eli Manning's record for the most passing yards in Ole Miss history. He's not, I don't want to say he's not the athlete that Dak Prescott is, but Bo Wallace is still a very good quarterback.
He's a very underrated athlete, and don't let the numbers fool you. We air it out a lot more than we did in the Eli Manning era. Bo Wallace has a system in place that allows him a lot of opportunities to throw the ball, but he's taking advantage of it. We've seen a real big improvement in turnovers. Say what you want about good Bo, bad Bo. For only him having 10 interceptions at this point in the season, I think a lot of people would have taken that going into this point. Fumbles are an issue as well, but Bo Wallace, a competitor. He's always put it on the line for Ole Miss. Has he seen success? Yes. Has he seen bad losses? Of course. But what he's always done is shown up and compete, hurt or not. He's always come ready to play.
Now, Houston, let's talk about some of the other matchups that we're going to see in this game. And for me personally, the way the Ole Miss defense, how they struggled against Arkansas, against LSU, Auburn, I want to see if the Ole Miss defense can contain Josh Robinson.
The bowling ball, and he is a bowling ball. He reminds me a lot of a guy like Maurice Jones-Drew. Low to the ground, gonna bruise and can break tackles, and with enough speed, he can break through and get to the next level. That's going to be the challenge, just the Mississippi State running game. Both of these teams, they're shotgun, spread it out teams. The difference is we throw it a lot more. Mississippi State wants to pound the rock a lot more, and Josh Robinson is a big part of that. I want to transition to another matchup on Mississippi State's offensive side of the ball, Darunya Wilson and Jamion Lewis. Can those guys get into space on an experienced Ole Miss secondary? Guys like Sinquez Golson have been making plays in the air all year, as well as Cody Pruitt. Those are athletic guys that can make you miss in open space. And I think it's really important that we don't let those guys break the game wide open.
Now, for this game, there's going to be a lot of keys to victory for both teams. But for Ole Miss, tell me 3 keys to victory.
Turnovers. It's always turnovers with Ole Miss. That could be 1, 2, and 3. But really, turnovers, being able to run the ball and stopping the run. That's how Ole Miss is going to win this game if they are going to win this game. We live and die by Bo. That's something that you always hear. When Bo isn't turning it over, when he's airing it out and not throwing interceptions, we're usually pretty good. We're usually getting wins. We're usually moving the ball. And then that moves me to the next, I guess, key, running the ball. We haven't had a lot of success. We have a stable of running backs, but we can't figure out which one we want to consistently keep. Is it going to be Mathers or Walton or Dodson or Wilkins? We'll see, but I think if we can move the ball and then flipping to number 3, stopping the run, I think that'll be key. So, Browning, I ask you, what are 3 keys to victory for Mississippi State if they want to win?
Well, for State, I think you start Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, if he wants any chance at catching up the Heisman ladder, he's got to have.
I think he's got an invite to New York already sewn up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree, and I think he can even he can make a case in this Egg Bowl this year if he can do some things on the ground, do some things in the air. But yeah, so my first key is Dak Prescott. Just being Dak and being the Dak Prescott he's been all season long. The second key, you mentioned earlier. You talked about Josh Robinson, Dak Prescott on the ground. Brandon Holloway is one other name to watch out for the Bulldogs. If State can just run over the Ole Miss defense like these other teams have this season, then State will have an advantage. And one other key for Mississippi State, I think special teams. I think that in rivalry games, it seems like there's always going to be a team that makes a big play when it comes to special teams. In State, they have a lot of good returners and a lot of key weapons to look out for. Before we close out our Egg Bowl preview show, we got to make predictions.
We got to make a prediction.
And since you're the guest on the show, I'll let you go first.
Guests go first. Well, I think it's going to be tough always with a game like this. It's going to be close with it being a rivalry game. From what I've seen with the Ole Miss offense, I'm not sure that they are going to have enough to keep up with Mississippi State. I like Mississippi State to win a game 31, Ole Miss 20. By 11. I'll go State by 11. I hate to do it, but I think the Dak attack is real. I think Mississippi State is more complete on both sides of the ball.
Well, now it's my turn to make a prediction, and I really think that Ole Miss, I think they're a resilient football team. We didn't see it against Arkansas like we would have hoped, but Hugh Freeze, the Rebels have lost 4 out of their last 5 to Dan Mullen, and now it's at home. There's so many seniors from D.T. Shackelford to Cody Pruitt, Sinquest Golson, Bo Wallace. Those guys, I just can't see them losing the last game at home. So
I hope not.
So I'm going the other way, and I'm going to take the Rebels in a close one, 27-21. Well, Houston, that's all the time we have for the show today.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. And Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the 2014 Egg Bowl will be this Saturday at 2:30 on CBS. For Sports Watch, I'm Browning Stubbs. That's Houston Brock. We will see you guys later.